Okay, cool. Hello. So I am just gonna do a very quick intro into Unreal Engine. It's not very structured because it's just gonna be me sort of pointing out the things that you need to be aware of when you first open it. So yeah, this is Unreal Engine 4. I do have Unreal Engine 5, but we don't have that on the uh, computers in the uni. So yeah, just stick to Unreal Engine 4 at the moment. And yeah, this is what you'll get when you open it up. So just Unreal Engine, and then you get this. So if you have, these are recent projects, so I've only got three here. Probably should not point out that one. Anyway, so you want games. So we'll click that and we'll go next. And then you see you've got a bunch of different options here. Um, for us, we don't really need to worry about any of these. This is more of like a designer's problem to think of, but it's good to sort of know what each of them are for, and they're kind of self-explanatory. You know, first-person shooter, flying. I believe there's third person somewhere. Yeah, third person. And basically all that this is how the player character is set up. It'll have some blueprints and things in there. But for what we want, we're just going to go with a blank one. Press next. So these are project settings. So it doesn't really matter, again, for us because we're going to be just putting stuff in there, making it look nice. But we will be using blueprints at some point, possibly be using it. So we're going to keep this at blueprint. Maximum quality, ray tracing disabled. You can turn that on if you want to, but I just keep it as off. Desktop console. This is the one that you might want to change. So this is starter content. So you can have it with, you can have it without. Without starter content is going to make your project file smaller, lighter, and it'll load faster. If you put your starter content in, you get a bunch of materials. There are some meshes in there. There are some particle effects. There's some really cool stuff. But for this sort of tutorial, I guess we'll just say no start content. You can always add it back in at a later date. Here is where you choose a location for it. So folder. I actually want mine to go into Unreal Projects. And then here's where you name it. So obviously you don't want to keep it as my project. You probably want to name it something. So we'll say this is test 01. And you just press create project. This might take a while to load. As you see here, 45%, it might stick at 45% for a while. That just means that it's building shaders. The bigger your Unreal project is, the more stuff you put in it, the more shaders are in there, the longer it will stay at 45%. So always give it a chance to load up before you sort of cancel it because it's taking too long. Cool. So this is Unreal Engine. This is what you'll get as your default load up thing. So a few things worth pointing out. This is the viewport and it handles pretty much like a game. So it's right click to move your mouse or move your camera around, and it's WASD to control where you are. Q is to pan down and E is to pan upwards. You can, obviously holding down right click, zoom in and out, forward and back with W and S, but you can also use the middle mouse button to scroll in and out, like so. Yeah, and then you just click things in the scene, like so. Up here we have a few options. You've got real time, so everything that we see in here is done in real time. Keep that on until you no longer need it in real time, or if things start to chug, and you can turn that off and then turn it back on when it's time to render your objects or render your scene or whatever it is you're trying to do. Show stats. So cool. So we've got field of view. Keeping it between 90 and 95 is probably the best, but if we do this, it just shows, you know, you can zoom right in and zoom right out and it can get a bit weird looking. Far view plane, I'm not really going to mess with that. Screen percentage, again, we can, probably shouldn't mess with that. That was 100, wasn't it? Yeah, cool. So allow cinematic control. All of this is, you know, sort of leave it as it is until you need to mess around with it. But yeah, the only thing you probably need from this menu is high resolution screenshot. When you click this, it brings up another window, and this is basically how you get your renders. I'll go into that in a little bit, but yeah, brings up this and fun stuff. So I'll turn that off a sec. We can go into different views. So at the moment we're in perspective. If we go to top, it goes to brush wireframe. Turn it to lit if we need to. Detail lighting. Player collision. So yeah, there's a bunch of different things, but by default it'll be brush wireframe, which is not ideal. Same for all of these as well, so every single thing, and then there are shortcuts for it as well. And then show, I have a lot of this stuff. So very, probably hard to see on screen right now, but there is a grid here. You can hide that by ticking this. And then there's a bunch of other different things. If you want to hide, what can I hide? Fog. Yeah, again, that's such a minimal difference. I don't know if you're actually going to see it on through the screen, but yeah. Oh gosh, excuse me. So yeah, that's just a couple of different things there. Over here, you have pretty much like it is in all software. So you've got your move, your rotate, and your scale. Exactly the same as other ones. It's W, E, and R. I believe that's the same in Maya and probably 3ds Max. These are snapping options. So at the moment, if I were to bring in a cube and bring it up, it's snapping. Is it snapping? If I do this, is it? Yeah, cool. So you see that it's now snapping between point. To turn that off, you just need to click that, or you can have it snapping to 10. So you know that we set our grid to 10 centimeters in Maya. This is now snapping to 10 centimeters because units in Unreal Engine are centimeters. Same with the rotate, same with the scale. And if you don't want to, so say you wanted to like have this and just rotate it nicely, you can either hold down Shift, I believe, or Control. No, not Control. Or Alt. No, not Alt. Okay, no, just turn it off up by here. So just click those, and then you've got free transform, and they don't snap at all. This one here, this is your camera speed. So when we are moving forward, moving backwards, whatever we do when we move around, this is the speed at which we move. So if I turn this up to 6, you can see that we're now moving really, really fast. If I turn it down to 1, we are now crawling at a snail's pace. But there is a cool little trick that we can do, so just keep that at like between 3 and 4 is a good sort of speed, but depending on the size of your scene, depending on how much stuff you've got in there, or you know how big it is, you might want to move a bit faster or slower. So you can use your middle mouse button and scroll out and scroll in while you're holding down the buttons. And if you scroll it toward you or down, that slows you down. And then you scroll upwards, it's going to make you go faster. So yeah, that's kind of how you navigate inside Unreal. To move things in there, you just click on them like so. And then obviously you've got your transformation widgets. Cool. So up here, you've got save, obviously self-explanatory. Source control, you probably won't need to worry about. Modes, this is a really cool thing where you can come into select mode is what we're currently in. We've got landscape, foliage, brush editing, and mesh paint. I only ever use landscape and foliage. The other two, they're alright. I've not used them, so I'm not really going to go into that today. But yeah, content we're not really going to use. Marketplace we won't use. Settings we might change something in here, but this is where you find your world settings, your project settings, and any plugins that you add in. I've got quite a few plugins. So yeah, that's where you would find them. This is pretty useful, engine scalability. So again, the more stuff you add into your scene, the higher poly the things that are in there, the slower Unreal Engine is going to run. And what we can do is change the quality. So at the moment we've got everything on Epic. We can set it to cinematic or we can have it to low. This affects how it looks in your viewport. But what we can do as well is set it back up when it's time to render so that it, doesn't affect your engine too much. Nothing else I want to show you in there. Megascans, you probably won't have this button, but this is a Quixel plugin. Blueprints, that is like the coding sort of side of it. Cinematics, I never use this, but yeah. Build. So you will notice that here it says lighting needs to be rebuilt, one unbuilt object. If we come here and press build lighting only, it's going to do starting up swarm connection, it's going to do some stuff. And it's basically going to build the lighting. I'll tell you here it's done, because there's nothing in our scene, it took hardly any time. The more you've got in there, the longer it's going to take. But yeah, that's kind of how you get rid of the red build lighting thing. Either that or have all your lighting set to like movable instead of stationary. Is that stationary? Is that what that says? Static and stationary, yeah. Cool. Then we've got play. So play takes you into play mode. Because we're in an empty one, it's not actually like a third person or a first person. It's just like creative mode almost. But yeah, you can press that, press escape to come out, or you can press, I think it's Alt P. No, it's not Alt P. There's a shortcut for it, I forget what it is. Alt P, huh, didn't work for me. Anyway, and then launch, that brings it out in a separate thing. If you're not doing a game though, you won't really need to worry about it. I'm just going to change a setting that I've noticed. So the first thing that you're probably going to come across in Unreal Engine is auto exposure, where if you look at something for a long time and then look away from it, the lighting goes really, really bright or really, really dark and then blows out. And that's basically just the engine trying to be smart, and it's kind of smart but not smart enough. So we just want to come into project settings, and then in engine and rendering, and then I just gotta find it. Auto exposure. We're just gonna turn that off because it's horrible and I don't like it. Oh, I'm gonna do that. Lovely. You see how everything is like super, super bright, but we can mess with the lighting after. Bring that down a bit. All of that good stuff. Anyway, so over here we have World Outliner. If you lose any of these windows, by the way, so say you close World Outliner by mistake and you're like, I don't know where to find it, just come up to Window and then try and find it in here. World Outliner, there we go. And the good thing about these as well, you can dock them wherever you want. Can get a bit confusing if you grab it by mistake and you forget where it was. But yeah, World Outliner is basically everything that is in your world. So you click on these and you can see where they are in the world space. And all of this is going to be in your default level. Most of this is lighting. So yeah, all of those are lighting, atmospheric fog. You can turn them on and off over here. Just doing all of them then, so yeah, if I do this. Again, that's such a minimal difference, but it is doing something. So if I delete that, light source, so that's going to affect your shadows and everything. So if I delete that, yeah, let's break it. Sky sphere, so your sky sphere is everything that you see up there, the entire sky. Delete that. Skylight. Nothing will happen when you mess with this because you need to build it, but we'll just delete that anyway. And then sphere reflection, that's just some fancy extra lighting stuff. I unless it's in the scene already, I tend to not worry about it. But yeah, so now you see that we've got absolutely no light in here, but this is still lit, and you can still see it. But if we press build lighting only, oh gosh, excuse me. It's done. It's now completely invisible. We can't see anything. If we come over here to place actors and come into the lights, you can see that we've got a bunch of different lights. Bring in a point light, and then that is literally just like a little light bulb that you can place in the scene, and you can control it, and you can sort of have it in there however you want. So say we want to sort of look at this guy, be like, okay, we'll bring another light in, give him some cool colors. What's opposite purple? That's pretty fun. Do something like that. Have to mess around with it. You can blow out the light if you want to make it super super bright, or you can have it like so, barely anything there. And what I like to do with my lights is change them. So over here you have your details panel, and you have this for anything that you put in your world. The details panel will consist of a location, rotation, and a scale, and then mobility for most things. I just like to put my lights to movable, which means I can stack loads of them in the same sort of place. If I put them to static, if you have too many of them in one place, they won't work. You also need to rebuild it, but doing it in movable just means that it's constantly done in real time as well, so you don't have to press this button up here. But yeah, so again, that's lights and whatever. We can group these just by pressing Shift G. Control G? Shift G? No, I'm just going to put them in a folder. So we'll name this. So yeah, the little button up here is create new folder, or I think you can, yeah, right click and create folder. We'll call this lights. And then, yeah, because I had those selected, I just pressed create new folder containing the current actor selection. So if I want to put these into their own folder, there we go. Right, cool. So player start. That is basically when we press play, that's where we're going to spawn. So yeah, we're down here, and then we can move around. Press escape. When you look at the player start, you can see. Oh gosh, I've lost it. There we go. Let me just slow my camera down a sec. So we have the red, blue, and green little arrows here. We see there's also another arrow. We can grab the red, blue, and green ones, but we can't grab the other one. That just shows us where the character is going to end up facing when you press play. That's all that is. So have it like that if you wanted. When we press play. God, I can't even find what I'm supposed to be doing. But yeah, you'll end up facing in that direction. If you delete it, when you press play, you'll just spawn in a random place, I believe. Or from where, yeah, because we're in an empty one, we're just going to spawn wherever our camera is. But yeah, so escape and then play, and then we're playing in that area again. Cool. So yeah, you have to press escape to come out of play mode as well. Cool. So down here, details. So you click on anything, whatever you bring in, it's going to have a details thing. It seems kind of scary when you look at it, but it's it's really not. Like I said, this is your transform, so you can control its location from here as well. So if you want to have it in the center of the map zeroed out, you just do that. That's at absolute world 0 now. Rotation, again, if you want to have it zeroed out, it's up to you. And then your scale, you can alter your scale of it in here. Hopefully you will have scaled things correctly inside whatever 3D software you're using, so you won't actually need to worry about that. But that option is there. This thing here, static mesh, this tells you what it is that you've got. So if you imported, for example, I don't think I have. No, this is a new one. If you imported in, your static mesh would be your 3D model. Materials, so that's what material we have applied to it. And then there's a bunch of other stuff in here that I never really worry about. Rendering visible. Do you want it to be visible? Probably. You can turn that off though. Actor hidden in game. So basically, what that does is we can see it here, but the moment we press play, it disappears. It's still in the scene, but it's invisible. So, press play. Play. There it is. What else can I show you? Nothing else is super important in there. So that's for like a mesh. When it comes to lighting, this is where you control, the intensity of the light. This is where you control the color. So the radius here, this is how big the area of effect for it is. So you can have it tiny, so it only affects a little corner of that. You can have it super big. It will only reach a certain height, though. You can blow this out as far as you want, but the light can only go as far as the intensity allows it. So yeah, all of these control different stuff. Use temperature, and then you can change the temperature of the light. So you see how we're going closer to red, it's getting hotter, and then further away it's going blue. Affects world. Cast shadows is a good one. If you tell it to not affect the world, so turn that off, it just doesn't cast light. And I don't know why you would want that, but yeah. Cast shadows, if we turn that off. Let me get another cube a second. I'm gonna scale him, rotate him, and bring him over here. Cool. So you can see that we have the shadow. So this light is going in this direction, is hitting this, and is casting a shadow. It's all being done in real time. If we click this light and then tell it not to cast shadows, there's just no shadows at all. Still gives the lighting detail, but doesn't put shadows. This is good if you need to put a light inside a mesh to give the idea of light, but you don't want big, nasty, horrible shadows all over the walls and stuff. That's pretty useful, because as you can see, the shadows can be quite harsh. You can mess around with that to if we brought another one to put it there slightly to sort of dither away the shadow. But yeah, you get the idea. What else do we have? Again, visible. Probably want it to be visible. Light function. This is sort of like blueprint kind of stuff, or materials that you can put in there. Don't want to worry about that too much. Light profiles, never used. Don't know what that does. Cooking. Don't know. It's kind of like baking, I guess. I have no idea really. Yeah, so that's kind of what the details panel is. World settings here is, I've just had that open from another project. Yours probably won't have that there, but that is just sort of like the settings of the entire scene that you're in. Cool. Coming down here, you will probably only have that. So you'll have a content browser. And yours probably won't have all of these plugins in that I have. It's quite a lot of them. yeah, this is all the plugin content. So like mega scans, that's this thing. So don't worry if yours doesn't look as detailed as this. You'll definitely have, though, content, which is this folder here. So content is basically where everything that you import into the engine has to go into the content folder. It needs to be organized. It needs to be labeled correctly. It just needs to be well looked after. Otherwise, when you hand it over to a designer or another artist, it's no one's gonna know what the hell's going on. So what I suggest you do first is right click and create a new folder. And we'll call this levels. And we'll right click and we'll create a new folder, and we will call this assets. Cool. So in the levels folder, funnily enough, that's where we're going to keep our levels. To navigate through, you just double click on them, and then up here you can click where you need to go. We can press back, or whatever it is you need to do. But yeah, just right click. You'll notice as well when you right click, you have a bunch of other options. Import to game assets. Yeah, you can do that, or you can just... Oh, didn't want to do that. You can open up your thing. What shall I bring in here? That one. You just drag it in instead of having to go add import or selecting it that way. And yeah, this is where everything you bring in will show up. You'll know what it is by hovering over it, and it'll tell you, right, you've got your leather material, right, metal material, sword, static mesh. You can tell it's just by looking at it as well. Materials are circles. Textures will be just flat squares with the texture on them. Static meshes will have a little preview of the actual 3D object itself. There are a couple of other things you can have in there, like sequences. They just look like cameras. Yeah, and they all have their own little color to correspond with, what it is. So if I just show you quickly, a level will be orange, a blueprint will be dark blue, particle is white, and a level sequence will be red, which is like a little animation. It's not a camera, sorry, it's a clipboard, shutterboard. Oh, I don't know what they're called. Clacker, the clacker board. Whatever, one of those. Cool, so just get rid of those a sec. Nice. And I'm going to go into this a little bit more in a sec, but, right now just to give you a lowdown. Finally, the last sort of window I really want to go into is place actors. So, recently placed, kind of self-explanatory. Basic consists of empty actor, empty character, empty pawn, point light, player starts, a couple of geometry things, a box trigger and a sphere trigger. Probably won't need to worry about these. That's more for the designers. And you probably won't need to, worry about using this if you're doing your own models inside Maya or whatever, but good to know where they are. Lights is probably the most important one. Directional light, point light, spotlight is quite a nice one. It's just, if I do that, you can sort of see the area of effect of it. Rect light, I don't... kind of just like a point light to me, but more spicy. I don't know, I don't use those. Skylight is the light that doesn't change unless you bake it. Cinematic, some camera stuff in there. Visual effects, so there's post-processing in here. Atmosphere, exponential height fog. It's a pretty nice one. No, not clouds. Where is it? Atmospheric fog. It's pretty nice. Yeah. Decals, that's in there. You can make your own decals. Geometry, sort of stairs and stuff. Volumes. can't think of anything in here except for post-process that you guys are going to need. Volumetric light maps. Light mass. Yeah, there's a couple of lighting things in here you might end up using. Most of it you won't. And then all classes, that's just everything. But yeah, this stuff is quite useful if you just want to check or test, you know, a material on a cube or whatever. Cool. And you won't have this window over here open by default. This is something that I've had open, and you won't need to worry about it for now. So, nice. But that's pretty much the entire UI of Unreal Engine. Like I said, to import something, you just find the FBX that you want to import. Let's go this guy, let's bring him in. Oh my gosh, come on. You will have a bunch of different options when you want to import stuff. Sometimes it'll try and recognize it as a skeletal mesh. If you don't have animations or if it's not rigged, don't have it as a skeletal mesh because it isn't one. This will give you a bunch of different options that you don't want. So when you click that, yeah, we just don't want that. Combine meshes. So if you have several separate meshes, probably want to have that ticked unless you want to keep them separate. A lot of this I removed degenerates. Sure, I guess. Blah 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 blah. Lovely, lovely, lovely. I've never messed with any of these other things. You might be tempted to change. Where is it? Convert scene unit. No. Oh gosh, I've lost it. Oh my god, where did that go? God. I've lost my trail of thought now. Thank you very much. Yes, I'm still recording. For God's sake. What have I lost? Right, no. Oh, I've lost my trail of thought. There was something there. You don't mess with stuff. This thing, convert scene unit and force front X axis. You may want to click that to, inside Maya, the up axis is Y. And sometimes models can come in on their side and stuff. That's because this has been ticked. Just don't mess with it. Leave it at the default. Yeah, just don't mess with it. Or mess with it and see what happens. It's good to make mistakes and play with stuff. Search location local. Keep it at that. Material import method. So yes, we'd like to create new materials or create instance materials. Probably won't need to do that. Or do not create materials. So if you have, like this sword here, if I hadn't assigned materials to it, because it's coming from Maya, and inside Maya we know that the basic material that's on everything is Lambert 1. We don't want to be bringing a Lambert 1 in for every single model that we have inside Maya that we haven't textured. So for ones like that, we just say do not create material and don't import textures. So basically, it would literally just bring in a mesh. But the one that we have right now does have materials, so we want that on. Invert normal maps? No, don't think we need to do that. Everything else is fine. Import all. Lovely. Okay, this one I didn't actually texture, so look at me being a liar. But yeah, here's a little BMO that I made at some point without his textures. Happy days. And that's brought in that. I'm annoyed that doesn't have a texture. Test if the other one did. Just so I can show you what they look like. Huh. Okay, that's fine. I've got the textures here somewhere. Cool. So yeah, when you bring in a model, it'll bring in the materials if you have them. If you don't, it'll bring in a Lambert. If you probably don't want a Lambert, so we'll just delete that. Lovely. Once we deleted it, because obviously that was on, Lambert was on this material then. Right, I can't. Okay, it's fine. When we click him, very quickly, I'm just going to put the metal material on him just to show you, because there's no textures in it. I can show you. Over here you can see when we click what's in our scene, so BMO 2, when we click him in the details panel, it's going to show us, right, here's your mesh, here's the material that's on it. If you don't want to have a material on it, you can clear, and then he's just going to have the default checkerboard that comes in with Unreal Engine, like so. Or you can drag them to here to change it, or
sorry, I'm not sure about that.
Alexa, please. Or you can click what material you want and press this little button, and it will assign it to that place. Cool. So yeah, I'm gonna delete these three because don't want them in my scene anymore. Gonna get rid of the texture that was on BMO, and I'm actually gonna get rid of BMO 1 as well because he's T-posed and I don't want that. So now, what I'm gonna do is just gonna move this UV snaps, adventure time, BMO. So here is my texture sheet. If I open it up, you can see he's all lovely and textured. Fabulous. So I'm going to drag that in. That's not going to give us any import options because there's nothing to change about this. It is literally just a texture sheet. It recognizes it as a texture, and it's got a red something. It's a slightly different shade of red to the animation, I think. But yeah. Cool, so we want to apply this to that, but we can't because that's a texture, not a material, so we need to make a material for it. So just going to right click, material. New material, so we're going to call this BMO underscore M, or BMO underscore 2 because it's BMO 2, and then M. And we're going to open this up. And that's opened up on a different page, which is useful. And this is what we have. I never, ever look at what's over here. It's only now that I have to explain it to you that I'm even looking at it. I don't know. This is stuff that we can add to this, I think. Yeah, let's not even worry about that right now. Cool, so this is the editor for the material that we've just opened. This will be in here by default because it's a material. And all we need to do, so if I make this slightly smaller, but slightly bigger than that, we're going to bring in this and drag it here, and that's going to be a texture sample of this. This is a preview of the texture that we have. So I just want to take, we can split it into RGB if we want to, but I just want to have the whole thing as one, and we're just going to plug it into base color. Because this is a hand-painted texture, it's just all going to be in the diffuse, or the base color, or the albedo, whatever you want to call it. Now for me though, I want this texture to be matte and not shiny at all. And I don't know if you can see, but by here we've got a little bit of shine on that, and I want to get rid of it. So all we need to do is apply something to our roughness to tell it to not be shiny at all. Because right now it's just slap bang in the middle because there's nothing in there. So I'm just gonna, what we can do is drag from here into that, and then it'll give us this, and we can search for a constant. So do this, and then there's a bunch, but we just want a constant. Or what we can do is hold down 1 and just click, and it gives us that constant we want. When I plug that in, you see now this is super shiny, so that's the opposite of what we want. So we just want to change this from a 0 to a 1, which is the opposite end of the spectrum. and that is completely matte. No shine to that whatsoever. Going to apply, going to hit save, and we can shut that down. So now we've got this mesh here, material and a texture. I'm going to double click this and apply our material this way. Or we can drag it into the scene and drop it on him there. I don't know why I can't do that. I can apply it to that. That's weird. Oh, okay, we'll drag it over here and then it'll go on BMO there, which is fun. We can change him to movable as well. Not that that's going to make any difference to what you're doing right now, but yeah. And that's pretty much how you import something and apply a texture to it. Sometimes, if we're smart, I'm going to test something a second. Table. Yeah. No, just the one. I want it to create materials and it should be bringing them in. Haha, it did. Cool. So yeah, basically because I hadn't applied the textures inside Maya, I had to build them myself. With this table, I made the texture and I applied it inside Maya and exported it with the texture on. So when I imported it into Unreal, it automatically made a material and brought in the texture for me. Lovely, lovely. My only issue with that, though, you can see that that's got a little bit of sheen to it, a little bit of a shine. So all we need to do is come in here, one, plug that in there, change that to a 1. So it's got no shine. This is literally a specific step for hand painting, for me anyway, just my personal preference. I don't like my textures to have any shine on them. When you do like a PBR material, you're going to plug something into the roughness. So, yeah. Close that. Drag our table in. Ooh, look at that scaling. You can't have a go at me for my scaling, purely because these are all separate projects, and yeah. But yeah, there we go. So that's that in there. The colours look a bit weird because we're using a green light and a purple light to showcase it off. But yeah, cool. So you're gonna have a lot more than just 2 meshes in your scene, possibly, and things are gonna get a bit confusing because, as you can see, we've got static mesh, material, texture, static mesh. So what I suggest we do now is make some folders. So we're going to go mesh, right click, new folder, call this one mats. Let's grab our meshes, move them into there, grab everything else, put it into mats. We have the option to move, copy, or advanced copy. We're just going to move. And then in mats, I like to make a text folder so that we literally have materials in one folder, textures in another folder, and meshes in a folder of their own. You can break this down even more. So, you know, if you had characters, you'd go cars, or chars, dressing. So that would be, you know, stuff that goes around the outside. If you had some foliage options, go foliage, and then you would just organize it as needed. If you ever get confused as to where things are, your folder structure should make sense. Everything should be named correctly. But for example, we're in content. We can't remember where we saved BMO. We're going to click in, and we're going to find this static mesh, and we're going to use this little spyglass over here, and that's going to take us in our content browser to wherever that is located. This thing, it won't work. It will. Look at it making me lie. It's in engine content. But it's not one that we've imported, so it's not in our content browser. So yeah, you'll actually have that folder as well. Cool. So, Grace, why did we make a levels folder? Because we don't want to do everything in the default level, because that's going to make Unreal Engine load really, really, really slow if you get a big scene in it. So what we're going to do is make our own level, and we're going to call this whatever we want to call it. Super awesome level. There we go. So save all. Save all quite often, and I don't know if it's popped up, but autosave does come up quite a lot. That's useful. Save level as. Ah, yes, cool. This is because we have altered the default level. So I'm just gonna save it in there. See, we've got Untitled, and we can rename it. Just press F2. Call this default. And default build data should pop up because we've saved it and it's the level that we're in. But yeah. So basically, the reason that we make different levels, always remember which one that you've done all your work in. But if I were to save this now, close it down, reopen it, it would open default level as, funnily enough, default. That's why I like to leave it empty, because like I say, the more you add into it, the more time it's going to take to open. It's going to have to build all the shaders and compile them. And, you know, if you've got some quite heavy stuff in there, if it's like a realistic scene that you've built, it's going to take forever to load. If we make our new level, Unreal Engine will open default, and then we just load new level from there. So, for example, I'm going to put a sphere. I'm going to put some light in. Directional light, a skylight. I'm going to put some atmospheric fog. And a sphere. There we go. So, save all, save selected. Open default. Default level has this. It has all of our stuff over here. Super awesome level has all of this that we just dropped in. So, yeah. What else do I need to show you? I don't worry about saving over here, because this button is save everything. Also, if you move stuff, delete things, change them a bunch, if you press this, it'll say, right, yeah, save before you exit, basically. I'm not going to do that, though. Much the same as in Maya and most other softwares, if there is a little asterisk on it, so you see up here there's an asterisk there, there's a little asterisk by here, that means they haven't been saved. So we press save all, that's super awesome level, save all, super awesome level. The owner is super awesome level, the file there. Lovely. If I make this slightly bigger, you can just see that a bit better. Cool. So that is pretty much all I want to show you for intro into Unreal Engine for now. Except for, I'm going to close this and we're going to come to here. So this is the file location where we save our project. Test01 was the name of the project as a whole. And you see that we've got Test01 Unreal Engine project. And its size 1 kilobyte. If you need to share your Unreal project with anyone, you cannot just take this and give it to them. Because if we look at the rest of them, 1 kilobyte. 1 kilobyte. Regardless of what you have in your scene, Like this is just named BMO. This was my BMO project I did a while ago. This is a MC Escher project I've done not so long ago. Um, this is just the basic Unreal Engine file folder structure, what we see by default when we open it. All of these folders will be empty until you start changing stuff inside it. So you can't just say I wanted to send somebody my MC Escher scene. I couldn't just go control copy and then give them this 1 kilobyte file. I'd have to give them all of these folders that come with it. So you may as well copy one of these. If you config, I don't think you need to send config. There's a couple you don't need to send. Saved is a big one. If you do screenshots, high resolution screenshots, video captures, they all go in the saved folder. Auto screenshot, what's this? Huh, cool. Logs, config, collection, autosaves. That all goes in there. You don't need to share those with other people. They are literally personal to you. Scripts, if you have scripts, they go in there. Fabulous. Intermediate. That's your cache. I never send that. Content is the big one. So this content folder is the exact same as the content folder, the content window that you see inside Unreal along the bottom. Because if you come in here, but we've got 2 extra folders. I think these are both going to be empty. Yeah. Cool. You don't need to worry about those. Don't delete them because Unreal will store interesting stuff in there at some point. But the 2 that we created, levels and assets. So if you come into levels, you can see we've got default map, default build data, and super awesome level map. They're the ones that we made, and these are UMap and UAsset files. Can't open them with anything except for Unreal Engine. In assets then, we've got mats, BMO, filler pieces. Oh, that's for the other thing that I imported. Textures, in the mesh, all the folder structure that we made, okay? So yeah, if you ever lose something or something gets corrupted and you can't open your file and you know the thing that did it, you can delete it from here. So don't stress too much. You can't do it the other way around. So you can't say, oh, I'll import something. So just go, I'll take this pillar test that I've been working on and drag it into the content folder. It just won't show up inside Unreal Engine, or it might cause it to crash, and you don't want that. And I think that's it I wanted to show you. Oh, other than you don't need to go when you once you've created your project, you don't now need to open Unreal Engine through this. You can open it through the project thing. So this one, the Unreal Engine project file, you can open it through that because it's got all of these associated with it. Double click that, let it open. Anytime today. There we go. As you can see, we're opened into a default level again. The reason it's come to this empty one is because, yeah, it comes to empty ones. Super awesome level. Boom. It's because I saved these as 2 separate ones, but it's not opening them up. But yeah, so great stuff. That's how you do that. There was one more thing I wanted to talk about quickly. What was it? Ah, yes. When we hover over the name of it up here, it tells you what version of Unreal Engine you're using. So I am currently on version 4.26.2. So 4.26. I do not remember which one's what the uni is using. I think it's 4.26. You can go up a version. You can't go back a version. Very, very, very important for everyone who is working on a shared project. If you share it between each other, you all need to be working on the same version. If you're not, then someone's going to open it in 27, someone's going to open it in 26, and the people who open it in 26 won't be able to alter it because they'll be out of date. So they'll have to update their entire Unreal Engine, which can take a couple of hours. I will show you quickly in the Epic Games launcher when it opens how we go about adding new versions. And then I think that's all I want to show you because I've been talking for a while. So you come to Unreal Engine, maximize this, and then come to Library. So here you have, we can press plus if there is a new version. You can have old versions installed, so I could get rid of this. Once I get rid of this, I don't think I'll be able to get it back because I've got 4.27 here. I've also got 5, which is there. But yeah, if I was to install this now, it's going to take a while. You know, it's not just a case of updating this version, it's taking Unreal Engine and installing it again as a newer version. You have a drop down here that you can pick which one you decide to launch. You need to have that installed before you can launch it. So always double check which version you're using. It also tells you what projects you have here and what version they were opened with. So I think the earliest one I have is 4.18. Yeah, 4.18. So yeah, just make sure everyone's on the same version before you start messing around and getting stuck. Um, and yeah, I think that's all I want to show you. If anyone has any questions, let me know. If nothing made sense, please let me know. Um, and keep an eye out for unwrapping inside Maya, which I'm probably going to upload tomorrow at some point. But yeah, cool. Thank you for listening.